28 years are not enough. Jeff was born at Krause Irving Hospital on October 8, 1984. I couldn't believe I gave birth to a boy. We had 2 girls. I kept saying over and over and over again, "We have a boy, we have a boy." Jeff weighed 10 pounds 2 ounces, and he was 22 3/4 inches long. He was almost 2 feet high. Most newborns take up about half the length of a bassinet in the hospital. Jeff only had about 3 inches of space at the top of his head. Even though he was so big, I started calling him Little Guy from the moment he was born. I'm glad we're not gifted with being able to tell the future, because on the day he was born, I'm glad I didn't know that he would be gone after living only 28 years. I hope you enjoy this story of Jeff's life. I know he did. We brought Jeff home on his sister Jennifer's 2nd birthday. She thought he was her birthday present. He was so big that his 4-year-old sister Maureen couldn't hold him in her arms. But 1 week later, Jeff was in his cradle, asleep in my bedroom. I was in the kitchen making supper. I heard Maureen's voice behind me. She was standing in the doorway with Jeff in her arms. Needless to say, I was speechless. Maureen said he was crying, so she thought she would help me and bring him to me. I stayed calm and told her to ask me when she wanted to take him out of his cradle the next time. Jeff was a very happy baby. He grew very fast. He was always above the range for height right from infancy. At 3 months old, he was wearing size 8-month sleepers. At 4 months old, he was too big for the baby swing. When he started to crawl, I put locks on everything, especially the laundry chute door. Maureen took Jeff to preschool for show and tell when he was 6 months old. Jeff had a huge appetite, and he loved to eat every kind of food I made for him. When he was 2 years old, he was as big as a 4-year-old. Jeff was very active and curious when he was a toddler. I was very careful about safety. 20 minutes before we were leaving our home in Fulton, New York, to move to Minnesota, I removed all the outlet covers. I was giving the kitchen counters one last cleaning, and I heard a rapid pounding of Jeff's sneakers. I thought he was just dancing or jumping. Then I heard him scream. I turned around, and he had put a key in the outlet where the refrigerator was plugged in. He was okay, but it gave me a terrible fright. It seemed like I could never keep Jeff clean. He was always dirty. We lived in a new subdivision in Minnesota. All of the houses on our street were newly built. A new house was being built 2 lots down from ours. Jeff used to love to go play in the huge dirt piles next to the new foundation of the house being constructed. Every day when I called Jeff home, after a fun-filled day of digging in the dirt, he came home with no socks. Every day, on his way out the door, I would tell him to bring his socks home. He always promised that he'd bring his socks home when he returned for lunch, and every day he would forget. One day, on my way to the store, I drove by the dirt pile. I just laughed so hard when I saw all of Jeff's socks sticking out of the dirt and waving in the wind. On the first day of kindergarten, my neighbor had Jeff stand in the gutter while taking a picture at the bus stop because Jeff towered over all the other kids. Jeff was very nervous about his kindergarten play. On the stage during dress rehearsal, in front of all the kids, Jeff threw up on the little girl in front of him. He was okay though. Jeff could be very stubborn. Having school photos taken is a big deal. I sent Jeff to school in a very nice white sweater. When the photos arrived a few months later, I was shocked to see Jeff wearing his dirty baseball t-shirt. I asked him about it, and he said he didn't like the white sweater and he wanted to wear his favorite shirt. We could have had the photos redone, but chose not to because it was so funny. I also think he had the shirt on backwards. We moved from Minnesota to Michigan and then back to New York. Jeff likes sports. and was in baseball in elementary school and hockey and football in high school. Jeff graduated from Canandaigua Academy in 2003. At Jeff's high school graduation, it was easy to find him in the crowd. He was 6 foot 4 inches tall. After graduating high school, Jeff enlisted in the Navy. I was so happy in 2004 and 2006 when he came home on leave. While Jeff was in the Navy, he traveled on the USS Nimitz to Bahrain, Malaysia, Australia, Chile, Argentina, Panama, Peru, and Hawaii. Jeff seemed like he was on top of the world. He went through basic underwater demolition SEAL training, but he broke his leg and couldn't finish the training. He finished his tour of duty on the USS Nimitz. Jeff was in great shape from his BUDS training. When he was done with the Navy, he moved to Reno, Nevada with a friend. He also started taking college classes. In 2007, he had extremely high blood pressure. This was unusual for a man who was in such great shape. Then he had a CAT scan. Jeff wanted more details than the ones on the sheet of paper. He took the scan to his best friend, who was a doctor. His friend saw a 9-centimeter adrenal mass with a necrotic center, a malignant tumor. Jeff had adrenal cancer. Adrenal cancer is one of the rarest cancers, and the 5-year survival rate is 20%. But all his family and friends knew he was a fighter. Even though he was frightened, he stayed positive. He looked at the cancer as a challenge. Through his battle, he stayed strong. He enjoyed rappelling, grappling, and was employed with the hotshot firefighters. He loved to hike in the woods. Please note, while you're looking at this photo, that he was 6 foot 4 inches tall. In November 2009, Jeff asked his girlfriend of 5 years, Jessica, to marry him. They were at Disney World in front of Cinderella's castle. After she said yes, the fireworks in the back of the castle went off. Jeff and Jessica moved to Michigan so he could be treated by the best doctor who treats adrenal cancer patients, Dr. Gary Hammer. Right after doing treatment of chemo, Jeff drove from Michigan to New York for his sister's graduation from Brockport. Even though Jeff was weak and lost a lot of weight, he was determined to finish building some shelves for his wife. They turned out beautiful. On August 13th, 2010, Jeff married the love of his life, Jessica. Here they are, joining the Unity Heart. Jeff made this Unity Heart from a tree that fell. He also carved hearts in parts of the tree and put them at the entrance of the setting of the wedding. It is those loving details that made Jeff so memorable. Even though Jessica and Jeff knew the prognosis of the cancer was not good, they looked forward to a happy life together. They bought a beautiful house, and before they went on their honeymoon, they bought a yellow lab puppy that they looked forward to adding to their family. After they were married, I congratulated them and said, "I love you, little guy," and got up on my tippy toes and hugged him. They enjoyed their honeymoon in Florida and picked up their puppy when they returned to Michigan. Eventually, the cancer spread to many parts of Jeff's body, compromising his ability to breathe. He had to use oxygen through a machine to help him breathe. Many friends visited Jeff and Jessica through these last 2 years of his life. His sister Jennifer moved from New York to Michigan in 2011 to help and to be close to her brother. During the many admissions at the hospital, Jeff was able to have his special friend Rhino with him. Rhino is a very well-behaved dog, and he was happy to go anywhere that Jeff was. Rhino was a very important part of Jeff's support team. August 27, 2012 was the last time Jeff made a trip to New York. He and his sister Jennifer came to New York to attend their cousin's wedding. He was able to see a lot of his family during that wedding. Little did they know that it would be the last time they would see him. Jeff had a port in his chest, and he wore a fanny pack for continuous pain medications. The New York trip was a bittersweet trip. I captured this photo of Jeff playing with his youngest cousin Jackson. These Legos belonged to Jeff when he was 4 years old. It was so difficult to say goodbye during this last visit. I said goodbye, and he said, "See you on Thanksgiving, Mom." I watched until the car was out of sight. Then I whispered, "Goodbye, little guy." Jeff was a strong-willed person and was determined to get a project done in his backyard. He was building a waterfall for his wife. He hauled hundreds of pounds of stone while being on 10 liters of oxygen. Unfortunately, he didn't finish the waterfall because he had to go to the hospital one last time. During Jeff's last admission to the hospital, his medical tech came in to introduce herself and to write her name on Jeff's board on the wall. She asked Jeff what he liked to be called, and he said, "Miracle Worker." This was so appropriate because there were so many times during his illness that he was told that there was nothing else that could be done, and he fought for the medical team to find something that would give him some more time. One time they told him to go home and die, and he refused to leave the hospital until they figured out a way to stop the swelling in his leg that was caused by a blood clot. The medical team decided to put a shunt in his leg, and that stopped the swelling. 3 days before Jeff died, his wife, Jessica, his sister Jennifer, and I were standing at the end of his hospital bed. Jeff took off his oxygen mask because it made his face itch. He was holding the oxygen mask in his hand, and Jennifer said that the oxygen mask looked like a microphone. Bear in mind that Jeff had a difficult time talking because it was difficult for him to breathe. Jeff looked up at his wife and sang the melody of Bette Midler's song, "Wind Beneath My Wings." He sang quite a bit of the song to his wife. When he was done singing, Jennifer told him that was pretty amazing, and he was. The night before Jeff died, he was in a coma. His wife, his 2 sisters, and 2 of his friends were in his room. They all sat in the room telling stories and sharing funny things he did throughout his life. It was like a laugh festival. I like to think that Jeff heard them all and enjoyed it too. Jeff never gave up his fight against cancer, but his body did. On October 27, 2012, Jeff passed from this world, still fighting. His friend Cody said that a few days before Jeff died, he said he was scared because he was trying to live a life that people would remember and that he hadn't been able to accomplish everything he set out to do. He also told Cody that people is all that matters. Jeff beat those 20% odds stacked against him and made it 5 years. Jeff's friend Baron designed a t-shirt with Jeff's picture on it and some things that Jeff enjoyed. On April 17, 2003, Jeff's wife Jessica and his sister Jennifer went skydiving in Hawaii. They took Jeff with them. Jeff's friends finished the waterfall for Jessica. Little guy, you lived a life that we'll all remember.